Welcome aboard the Ear to There podcast, the podcast that'll help you vacation like a pro in any Disney destination. For those of you standing, please sit down and hold on throughout our journey and get ready to learn how to have the time of your life. And now, here's your host, Phil Gramlich.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ear to There podcast. I am your host, Phil Gramlich. I am also the owner and operator of Ear to There Travel, which is a Disney-specialized travel agency. It's my job to take away all that stress, all that anxiety, and all that time that it takes to plan a Disney trip so you can focus on the fun things like having a great time with your family and friends and enjoying the magic. Oh, and I just always want to mention that I do all of that for free, right? So I plan everything from hotels to transfers on a Magical Express to dining reservations to Fast Pass reservations to special event tickets, anything you need. I handle all that absolutely at no extra cost to you. You can find this podcast, my blog, or request a free, no obligation quote over at eartotheretravel.com. Also, now look for me each and every Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook Live. Sign on, watch the show. It's a live show, obviously. It's Facebook Live. Chat with me about Disney. Ask me any Disney or any other question you want. I am looking forward to seeing and talking to you there this week. Speaking of this week, this is episode number 61 for the week of March 20th, 2017. Now, grab a drink, grab a snack, and as a famous mouse once said, on with the show. Oh, that was horrible. On with the show. When Walt Disney World opened Epcot in 1982, it was going to be a completely different kind of entertainment. Epcot was going to revolutionize the way that people enjoyed theme parks. You see, Epcot was going to be educational too. Actually, Disney came up with the word edutainment to explain what Epcot was all about. Now, in the years since, Epcot has evolved like all the other parks have, and it's not exactly the education-first style park that it was back in the 80s. But it still has plenty of those educational elements left. As a matter of fact, Walt Disney World as a whole has a ton of educational experiences. You just have to know where to look for them. That's why this week we wanted to talk all about the top educational experiences in Walt Disney World. Since we're talking about educational experiences at Disney, joining me is a man who is qualified to talk about these things. He and his wife homeschool their kids. While she covers the traditional subjects, he is their language instructor. But he isn't teaching them Spanish or Latin, no. They are learning to talk jive. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Johnny Schwartz.
Oh man. I had a flashback there, man. I thought back to, I was probably, 5, maybe 6 years old. Grandma leaned down to me and she said, John, don't you talk no jive, you turkey. And that's where I think it all started, man. Like real early age. So I try to impart some good wisdom to the kids, making sure they're on the up and do what you got to do. So I don't know about being qualified, though. I got to imagine that if we did like a police lineup of all your friends and we had to pick out who's the dumbest of them all, I'd probably be the one that the spotlight would be shining on pretty quickly.
Dude, you know that you and I met a little later in life. You don't know the guys I grew up with. All right. Trust me. You're I don't think they listen to the podcast, so I think I'm okay saying this.
Well, I don't think the friends I grew up with know what a podcast is.
Yeah, that's probably true too.
They don't get that they don't get that much internet time in their daily routine at the joint.
Where they're incarcerated somewhere upstate. Why is it always upstate? I'm going to send you to that jail upstate.
It's like the west side is always the hard side of town. Don't go to the west side, man.
Or across the tracks. Like, what's going on over there? I don't understand. It's weird. I don't know. Anyway, well, thanks again, man, for being on. And I did get that intro from my source inside the short sleeve household once again. So,
man, there's a little bit of truth to that. You know, got to keep it sharp.
That's true. You gotta like airplane. Does anyone here speak jive?
Oh, yeah. Wasn't that Mrs. Was it Mrs. Brady? No, not Brady. What was the show? Leave It to Beaver. Mrs. Cleaver.
Is that who it was?
It was Mrs. Cleaver that played that part.
That's funny, man. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, go back and watch that, man.
All right, here we are. We're off on again. Like, how many? What are we? A minute in? We're off in tangents already.
That's probably not a record. I think we've done even less.
Yeah, like before the intro, I think we've done. All right, so here's the deal, right? There's this big thing now where parents won't pull their kids out of school to go on a Disney trip. It's like, I know my daughter Alexa started kindergarten this year, and they're like, oh, if she misses this many days, she needs an educational note, and it has to be this educational, trip, and she can't do this, she can't do that. And I thought, when I was in kindergarten, seriously, I remember playing with blocks, and now
playing with blocks, eating paste.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's so we moved outside of Philadelphia to get into a nice school system, so I'm happy that we're here in a nice district. But it's a lot of pressure on little kids to kind of learn, even if they're not in school. So what you came up with, which is a great idea, and I really, really liked it, is the top educational experiences in Walt Disney World. Because let's face it, Disney's, we were kind of joking offline or off the recording. We said, Disney's basically school, right? I mean, it's that education. It really is. There's a lot you can learn there. I mean, I think so anyway.
I said it's basically school, but the churros are better.
That's right. I was trying to remember what you said. It's true. Listen, and joking aside, you can learn an awful lot in Walt Disney World on your trip, and it can be, I think, a really educational vacation. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to help parents out. We're trying to get you to not feel guilty about pulling. Listen, your kids don't need all that school anyway.
Well, and here's where I think this comes into play that I don't think many parents may not realize is that the reason why this is such a great experience for children in terms of education is there's so much of it is hands-on. And, you can learn about stuff in a book, and that's great. But to be able to actually experience it firsthand, it's like learning a language. I struggled learning Spanish, and I don't remember a lick of it now after 3 years of it in high school. But all I did was sit there and remember words and remember how to construct a sentence, and I did some vocabulary, and that was it. But I remember hearing that, if you really want to learn a language, you have to immerse yourself. You have to converse. You have to speak to people. Maybe even go live somewhere where it's a native language, because it's that experiential learning is how the brain really soaks stuff up. This is what they offer, which is amazing. It's more than just cool roller coasters, and I think it's an awesome thing to do for your kids. And if you're sneaking them out of school, I guarantee you they're going to learn more at Walt Disney World in a week than they're going to learn in the classroom.
Agreed. And I thought you were going to end the story with, so I went to Mexico, lived there for a year, and now I speak fluent Spanish, but you did not. You ended it with...
Yeah, there's a little problem with the old passport, the State Department. I can't talk about this on the air.
All right, man. Well, all that being said,
I'm not exportable.
You're not Art Vandelay, importer-exporter. All right, man. So with that, it's a Seinfeld joke for you guys who were way too young to get that. I know that I've gotten emails from people who say, I make old jokes. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm old.
Now I see Vandelay Industries shirts all the time.
Yeah, that's a great shirt. That's a great shirt. Yeah. I love the Vandelay. I'm an importer-exporter. I love that. Say Vandelay Industries. Vandelay Industries. Remember when he was trying to get the job? Anyway, Jerry was like his reference. He was like, Vanda, what? I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, I'm sorry, it is, man. It's classic. Anyway, man, I'm sorry. All right, let's go. Let's get started. We're going to go to you. You're the guest. You have, as we were talking before, you have less than I do. So I do not want to steal your first one. So you go first. Hit me with your first educational experience.
So what I'll do is I'll give you a quick overview of my thought process here. And as always, I try to go a little left to center here. I don't want to just go the easy route. And what I did was each of my 5 choices, I did one of each of the 4 theme parks and then one in a non-theme park environment. So when I say my choices, I'm not trying to shortcut anything, or I hope you don't get any hate mail from somebody saying, oh, for the Animal Kingdom, he mentioned this, but why not that? No, it's all good. It really is. But what I want to highlight on my list today is just the things that I really enjoy and my family enjoys, and things that I think might be a little off the radar to some extent, and I want to explain why I think it should be on the radar if it is for you. So I'll start with Animal Kingdom since I just mentioned that. The thing that I think I see a lot of people blow past, and it kind of bums me out, is the Wilderness Explorer program that they have there. So basically, if you can kind of picture yourself going around the Oasis area, which is kind of where you walk in, and then there's that massive bridge, and there's that reveal of the Tree of Life where there's the photo pass people that are taking your pictures. People get their pictures taken, and they just hightail it out of there and go to Kilimanjaro Safaris or wherever they want to go. And they walk right past this little booth where they have the Wilderness Explorer program. It's kind of loosely based on the film Up. And essentially what you're doing there is kids or even adults, you're interacting with the cast members in a way that they're kind of encouraging you to start to learn and discover and explore around Animal Kingdom in a way that you're not going to necessarily do if you're just there to do the rides and the shows. So what you do is you get a little booklet, you get a pencil, and you get a badge, a little sticker. And in the booklet, it guides you around the park in a way where encourages you to make these stops. And it's a ton of stops. So you could do it in a day if you plan your time wisely. For us, when we do it, if we're starting from scratch, we'll stretch it out over a few days. Just go in and do a few, and then go back and do it the next time we go. But what you do is you will go to all these different stops in the park, and there's little signs or little like these little circular signs that kind of indicate that that's one of the stops. And they give you a map too in the little booklet of where to go. And at that particular stop, you may hear a story from a cast member from that particular place in the world, or you may have a hands-on experience that allows your kids or you to see something or learn something about animals that you may not have learned before. And all through that booklet too, you're interacting too. There's some coloring activities, there's some drawing activities. So it's neat. It's a neat way to kind of like a scavenger hunt kind of program. It's all free of charge. There's no extra cost for it. And the fun thing about it is your kids are now kind of in this mode of, I want to see what is out there to explore and learn about, not just hey, I want to go and do this park as just any other theme park. Where are the cool rides? No, this is like a get down and learn something. And you're kind of piecing together these little stories as you go around the theme park with this program. And when you're done, you go back to the little Wilderness Explorer hut that they have right there on that bridge. And you can show the cast members there that you finished. And they'll say, okay, great job. Do you want us to let everybody know that you did a great job? And if your kids are cool with that, they basically walk out in the middle of the bridge and say, hey, everybody, guess who's a senior Wilderness Explorer? And then they'll say your kids' names, and everyone will be clapping. So you see your kids kind of light up. And I think that's kind of cool, too, because it gives them that sense of accomplishment that they did something that was a hard challenge to do, because there's a lot that they have to do to go around. So what's cool about Animal Kingdom now, it's no longer a half-day park, evidently, which I say that as a joke, obviously. That was kind of like a running gag that some people used to say it was just a half-day park, but it's definitely not. No. The cool thing is now that the hours are extended during the day into the evening hours, although that program, I think they usually kind of cut it off at like 5-ish or so in the evening. Because in some of the spots where you have to go, it's in areas where they do close it off earlier. So it is something that you can integrate into your day at Animal Kingdom. And it's a neat little takeaway, too, that you get when you walk away, and you get a nice little souvenir a free souvenir that your kids can take home and say, hey, we stopped in the Asia section of the park and learned this thing, but I want to go and learn more about it. So in essence, I think it could do a great job of whetting your kids' appetites for learning more about these concepts that they may not have thought about before, or if they did encounter it in school somehow, it's probably just kind of an afterthought. They brush past it. This is more in-depth and kind of immersive into the learning opportunities that they have there at Animal Kingdom. So that's a clear one for me. I love it. I that's definitely not a one and done, because things seem to change a little bit through it here and there with that. So you can see it and come back for your next vacation that you booked with Phil, of course, and you might see something. So that's number one here, the Wilderness Explorer program at Animal Kingdom.
So with the Wilderness Explorers, you learn more in an afternoon than I learned in like 4 years in the Cub Scouts. Like, without a doubt, you get better badges. You learn a lot more. Because I didn't learn anything in the Cub Scouts except how to cheat in the soapbox derby or the Pinewood Derby race. My dad back in the day, I'm not kidding. My dad back in the day drilled a hole in my car and put a metal, like lead rod in the front of it and concealed it with the wood to try to cheat and win all the races.
That's what's wrong with NASCAR, by the way. Like, NASCAR would be so much more enjoyable if they didn't have so many darn rules and inspections. Like, every car's identical, basically. They should go back to the days where, all right, you want to race? All right, go down to the Dodge dealership and get a Charger. And put a roll cage in there and wear a helmet, and then whatever else you do, that's up to you. Like, there's a dude, I'm not exaggerating. There was a dude like back in the 70s who, because that's how they did it. They had like a stock car. You basically got like a stock car and you modified it for racing. This guy, he reconstructed one and made it 7/8 scale. So it looked on the outside like it was like one of the regular cars, but it was an eighth smaller than everyone else who had one. But that's the kind of stuff, like, I wish you would do that again. They were running fuel lines through the roll bars so you could get some extra fuel and not have to stop so much. Like, that would be so much more fun. Like, so in other words, whatever you learn in the Scouts, I wish they would keep that going.
Well, I don't know a whole lot about NASCAR, but I there's got to be, I know my dad did break all the Cub Scout rules. So that was the thing. But like, I probably would have gotten kicked out if I was doing it today. They have a lot more regulations in the Pinewood Derby than they did when I was like, 9. But my kids haven't done the Wilderness Explorers yet. I think, unlike you guys, like when we're there, we do like Animal Kingdom one day, and it's kind of tough, but it is something that's really, really cool to do. And yeah, it does change a little bit. You get to do different stuff. You see a lot of people. I've seen adults running around the park with the guide in their hands. So You're right. It's not just for kids. So yeah, it's
neat because you get this sense of accomplishment, because with each stop you get a different badge in the booklet, a little sticker, and don't call it a sticker to the kids, call it a badge.
Yeah. It's a
badge. So they're seeing progress. And so there's like these milestones that they're meeting. So that to me, I think, helps in the learning process. The brain likes that, to see that you're actually accomplishing something. You're moving toward a goal.
Yeah. And I saw online that recently, it might've been, was it today? That little Jamie and Jimmy short sleeve finished their Wilderness Explorer hunt. I think it was today. That's very cool.
Yeah, that's today. Yeah,
that's a very timely event for the podcast. Then
I know, and it's funny is when I made my list, they still had some in that book that they were working on. So I didn't even know about that they were going to lock it down today. So I thought, that's so funny. What a coincidence.
Yeah, right. You were like, you better do it today. Get this done. I have to talk about it tonight. All right, man.
Taking too long.
I raise winners. All right, man. So that's a good one. So, all right. So I'm going to stay in Animal Kingdom for my first one. And I'm going to go super, super predictable. But this one is, for me, it's again, I was a cast member at Animal Kingdom right after the park opened. The park's always going to hold like it's going to be special to me forever. So it's something that's really cool for me. And it just recently, within the last year, maybe within the last 6 months or so, got its original name back. And it's the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail. For a while, it was called Pangani Forest Exploration Trail. From what I understand, back in the day, it was called Gorilla Falls because you saw gorillas. And then sometimes the gorillas are a little bit elusive and it was hot and they would be inside and you wouldn't see them. So that's why they changed it to Pangani Forest. But then people didn't know what the heck they were going to see at Pangani Forest. So now it's back to Gorilla Falls. But anyway, this one again, this is kind of near and dear to my heart. I worked in Africa, not the continent, obviously, but the part of the park. In 1998, I worked in custodial. So I was I walked through this attraction like 4 out of every 5 days a week. I would do restrooms, which was not as glamorous as it might sound. When you're working in Disney, I would have to clean the restrooms 1 day a week, and the other days I would be in the park. So I was in the park every day. But one
that
day,
sounds like a podcast, by the way. Like the top
gosh.
10 things you saw on that duty. See what I did there?
I do. Yes, I do see what you did there. Yeah, I know. It's a horrible.
Brought it right back.
It's terrible pun after terrible pun. Okay, let's try to get this back on track. So that was the restroom duty was. That was not on purpose either.
I almost choked on some water, man. Jeez, give me a heads up before you do that.
It wasn't on purpose. That was completely by accident. So, yeah, the restroom part of that role wasn't a fun one. And this is honestly, the only good part of those days was like 80% of the day I was in air conditioning because I would be in the restroom. So basically my day would consist of and this was before Asia was a section in a park, but it was still, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. For the listener who's a casual or, once in a lifetime or never been to Disney kind of person, I apologize. When you're walking between Africa and Asia, the blue restrooms on your left-hand side, they're right by the bird show. What the heck is the bird show called?
Flights of Wonder.
Flights of Wonder. You're not too far from there. Those restrooms, that was pretty much where my area would cut off. But I would go from that restroom to the ones in Africa, the really big section in the Mombasa marketplace, to the ones in Tusker House, and then the ones, sometimes I would have to hit the ones out of Conservation Station. And I would just do that all day on a loop. So I would be in the air conditioning most of the time. That was the only good thing about it, because you can imagine how many problems.
The temperature was good, but how was the other environmental aspects of that?
Everything else is what you can imagine. And Disney standards, I mean, those restrooms have to be clean all the time. So you can imagine that was a tough gig. But anyway, another restroom tangent. There we go. Gorilla Falls is, I used to walk through there, several times a day as a custodial host, getting the trash cans, empty the trash cans, sweeping up, cleaning up, but custodial it's not as bad as it sounds. It's actually a really fun job. You end up talking to guests pretty much more than anyone else in the parks because you're there and you're available, and it's a fun job. But so why is this one educational? Okay. So you see lots and lots of animals here. Okay. You see Western lowland gorillas, which are amazing. The okapi, which if you don't know what they are they're I think it's cousins of the giraffe, but they actually have a zebra kind of back, like hindquarters to them, with their black and white stripes. They're really, really cool animals. They were like I forget what they called them, like the phantom of the forest. But they weren't even known until like the late 1800s or early 1900s. They were kind of like a myth, like nobody even knew they existed. You see hippos, you see meerkats, naked mole rats, several species of fish and birds. And what's really, really cool about this attraction, though, is stationed throughout it are cast members that are either experts or play experts on TV about, of these animals. So in the hippo viewing area, there'll be a hippo expert. In the gorilla viewing area, there will be a gorilla expert, and so on and so forth. And they know literally everything there is to know about these animals. So you can sit and talk to them while you're watching the gorillas, while you're watching the okapi, while you're watching anything, the meerkats, and ask them questions and have all kinds of, learn all kinds of fun facts about the animals. And very, very, very cool. They're so knowledgeable. They're there for you to talk to. So it's a really cool thing that they're there, and you learn so much, and you get to, and it's not something like that you're riding through and you get a limited amount of time. I mean, you can sit or stand and watch the gorillas for hours if you want. There's nobody stopping you. And I think it's something that's really, really cool too. You take your time, you walk through, you really get to see everything. I love it. So yeah, that's my first one, and one that I never miss when I'm in Animal Kingdom. I love it. I really do.
It's neat because if you think about like Kilimanjaro safaris, so you kind of to contrast, you have kind of a schedule you're following where you're seeing a lot of things, and it's a really amazing experience because of the animals and how everything is situated there with the savannah and things like that. But you're kind of limited to a certain amount of time per experience or per viewing opportunity. What you just hit there is a really, really powerful point because, like for example, my daughter is doing something for school that where she has to identify an animal and learn about it. And so, it's easy for us to just zip down there and do what you exactly just said. It's just to kind of hang out there and just watch and observe and see, how they behave in kind of the habitat that they have set up for them there. And I think that's a really neat thing for the kids because, a lot of them, if they may have a zoo nearby where, wherever everyone lives or maybe it's not easy to or very accessible. It might be a little bit of a hassle to get down to it. This, when you're here and you're experiencing that, just I think is a nice kind of contrast to everything else that they have to offer in the park. Just to kind of be, just to slow down and take your time and really enjoy what they have to offer there. That's a really good one.
Thanks, man. And if I may, and since I make the rules, I may. Let me tell you a quick story about my time with the gorillas. It's not like I was. Let me tell you about the time I was living amongst the gorillas for years.
That's what they did to you in the college program. They didn't give you housing. They just gave you a sleeping bag. They
came to know me as their master. So I'm like Jay Peterman. So like I was saying, I would go through and get the trash cans, empty them, and I had this big gray trash cart that they still use. They push it through the attraction. The cast members push it through the attraction and collect all the bags from the cans. Well, it was my job at the end of the night when all the guests were cleared out of that attraction to go through and get all the trash cans again and empty them all again. Well, one night, it was, the park stayed open until I think it was 6 o'clock when I worked there, maybe 7. It was when it was still light out. And I think it was 7. I think I worked 11 to 7, I want to say. Or 10 to 7, something like that. That doesn't matter, really. So I'm walking through, and there's a section of the Gorilla Falls where it's like a little cave with a waterfall. And on your left-hand side, there's like these bars. They look like bamboo bars, and beyond the bars is the gorilla viewing area. Well, they're not bamboo; they're actually metal. They're metal bars, steel, but they have like a bamboo covering, so that looks like more natural because the bamboo steel bars wouldn't look right on that attraction or on that walkthrough. So I'm kind of doing my thing, not really paying attention, emptying the trash can, kind of talking to myself. Out of the corner of my eye, I see something moving. And I look towards the bars. And one of the silverback gorillas is standing there staring me down. Like, literally just a few feet away, and you can't go up to the bars. There's another fence. There's a separation, but I'm 6-8 feet away from this gorilla, and he's looking at me, and I just freeze, and I just look at him, and I remember now what I should have remembered then is that a look in their eyes, like looking directly at them, the males especially see that as a challenge, and they don't like that when you do that. But for a minute, I was just hypnotized by this gorilla standing there, or kind of like hunched over. So I was looking right back at him, and he freaked out, and he grabbed the bars and shook them and did that one of those crazy gorilla, like he did like those crazy noises.
Oh my!
And when I tell you, I've never run that fast in my life. I don't even know what he did. I just dropped the trash can and ran. I ran to the exit of the. I mean, I was gone. Like I've run marathons and half marathons and 5Ks and 10Ks. I've never run that. I could have set a record that moment, man. I've never run that fast. It took me, I swear, 10 minutes to calm my heart down to get back and go back to that trash can. By the time I got back, he was gone. He wasn't there anymore. He had taken off. But yeah, he showed me who was boss, man. Oh my God, I was so scared. I got back to my apartment that night and told my roommates, I had them all like laying on the floor laughing so hard at me because it scared me to death. I thought he was coming for me. I thought I was dead.
It seems like I recall the custodial staff now, they have like a Superman belt with all the tools and stuff that they use.
Yeah,
sure. Did they have like a spot on that belt for like a blow dart gun to like shoot a trank dart at him if he started?
Man. I wish, and like you, and I don't even think we had anything back then. I had the walkie-talkie that on my hip. I think I could have swung the walkie-talkie at him if he came near.
Yeah, that would have really done the job.
They're like 400, 500 pounds. Yeah, that would have slowed him down. But yeah, oh my God. I've literally never been that scared of any animal or person before or since in my life, except when my daughter Zoe was born. We brought her home. She scared me. She scared me that much. She was. I'm
surprised you even go back to Animal Kingdom after that.
I know.
Like, I think that would be so traumatizing for me that I wouldn't even want to step foot in that park anymore.
Well, just to really quickly clarify for people who are listening who are like, that guy's a jerk because he talked about his daughter like that. No, my daughter Zoe was a little over 3 pounds when we brought her home. That's why she scared the pants off me, because I didn't know what the heck to do with her. I was like, I remember holding her, looking at my wife, and I was like, this is terrifying to have this little like person in my hands. It scared me. But yeah, I have like flashbacks when I walk. I like kind of run past that area now. I'm like, that's where he was. I just run right past it. It scares it. It really still scares the pants off me. All right, man. So I'm slowing the podcast down. So you're up for your next one.
No worries, man. This is why the people keep coming back, man. Yelp has shown it, man. I evidently got some reviews going there.
I saw the Yelp review.
Yeah, that was funny. Hey, man. So my next one I got here is Epcot. So did my Animal Kingdom stop? Now let's talk Epcot. Epcot. If I was to rank the 4 theme parks in terms of educational opportunities, I think I would say Epcot probably gets the gold medal in terms of the variety and the number of different educational opportunities. We'll see how that goes in the next few years as some changes come down the road. But anyway, the thing that I chose for Epcot was the KidCot Fun Stops. And basically what that is around World Showcase and all the different country pavilions, there are little sections kind of tucked away where you can have at least one cast member who's from the host countries, who's acting as a cultural representative, who kind of presides over the area. Like normally what will happen is you can get like one of these little cutouts of Duffy, the Disney bear on a stick, and you can color Duffy and get little stamps on the back, or they'll write some little notes or draw some little things in each country. right now, as we're recording, Flower and Garden Festival's going on. So now they're giving out these little booklets instead that are kind of themed to Flower and Garden Festival for the kids and for the countries. So, but what I think is interesting, now someone may be hearing this and go, lame coloring. We can do that at home. What's the educational value of that? Actually, I think what's interesting is if you were to try to break down each of the country pavilions in terms of what they do and what they offer, one of the things that Disney really prides himself over is the fact that the host pavilion, the countries that are in World Showcase, are staffed by people who are from that particular country, and they're staying here for like 6 months to a year. I don't remember what the rotation is. But those are people they work in the cash registers. They're working, stocking the shelves in the gift shops. So they're kind of busy. Yeah, you can chat with them, but they're kind of running all over the place. But at the KidCot Fun Stops, they're always just kind of there sitting, hanging out. So it's really easy for you and your kids to go and talk to them and strike up a conversation about their experiences at their home country. And so when I take my kids there, I always try to encourage them to kind of sit near those cast members and see if you can talk to them. And I'll kind of start the conversation and kind of try to include my kids and do something that'll get them to want to join in on the conversation. So to me, I think that's a really neat thing to actually make it a real, truly immersive experience in terms of what you're seeing at that particular country's pavilion. And to find a way to interact with the cast members who are there on doing their rotation. Again, I don't remember if it's 6 months or a year. I apologize. You think I'd do a little advanced prep, right? I don't. That would be like what a normal person would do. I think if you're somebody who thinks your kids might find it interesting to not only just kind of sit down and cool your heels for a bit. Usually these are nicely shaded spots. Some of them are indoors where you can get some air conditioning. So a nice little spot to take a break. You can also take a break too, because you're not walking around and standing in line. And it also gives you a chance to kind of have a nice conversation with some of the cast members. We did that last weekend. I did that with the kids, and we went over to the UK pavilion, and that's exactly what's happening. The UK pavilion's KidCot stop is pretty sweet. They have this little alcove kind of tucked way in the back in one of the shops there, and there's these two really big high back chairs. They're just sitting there so that you can just kick your feet up and relax. They're nice. But the cast member there was super, super cool, and I can tell she was just looking for a chance to talk to somebody. So she was really just having fun talking to my kids and had a great time. And they were talking about rock and roll, because at the time we were hanging out there, British Revolution was playing one of their sets, which is literally like right out the door of where we were. And so my daughter's into music, so they got talking about it. And so it was neat. It's neat to give them the chance to interact with people from other countries in that kind of setting. So the KidCot Fun Stops, that's my pick for Epcot.
Dude, I really like this one. And what's cool is I just talked about this actually last week on the podcast with Herb Leibacher from the World of Walt. Because it was, I forget what it was, Top Epcot Secrets, I think it was, or something like that, or little known Epcot Secrets. Mm-hmm. And I think this may have been one of my picks. I can't remember. But yeah, these are really cool, and you're right. It's something that I don't think every guest or the average guest knows about. And when we were down there in January, we went to the Morocco Pavilion. I think we were just kind of like, one thing I always tell people to do is to wander through the pavilions, because a lot of guests don't do that.
And the Morocco one is awesome.
Yeah, the Morocco one, there's a lot to see back there. And we were kind of, you really have to walk back and check it out. And you really feel like you're in Morocco, like this open marketplace in Morocco is really, really cool. But the KidCot station back there, we kind of, we went and met Jasmine with my kids, and we were walking out, and there was a KidCot station, and my kids saw the Duffy on a stick. So they wanted to do it. So we were like, of course. So the cast member there, same thing. He was a young guy who they're kind of bored, right? I mean, they want to talk to you. That's why they're there, is because they're really they're really good at talking to people. So he talked to my kids. They were talking about Duffy. They were talking about he started asking them questions about where they were from. That encouraged them to start asking him questions where he was from. They had a whole conversation about it. And at the end, he wrote their names on the back of the Duffy figures that they colored in Arabic, which I thought was really, really cool. So my kids still have it because they thought that was so cool. And they didn't really understand the concept of languages and the written word. And it was really, really neat to see them kind of click in their mind. Like, oh, wait, what we know isn't the only thing, like it's not the only language that people speak. And our oldest, Alexa, who's 6, she still talks about it. Like, she's blown away that this symbol on her Duffy says Alexa. Like, she doesn't understand how, if you showed that to somebody in Morocco, that's what they would read. But it's really, really cool. So I love that. I love that pick. That's something that's really, really cool.
So you know how in the China Pavilion they have all those cool umbrellas that like the animal-shaped umbrellas?
Yeah.
We got one for my daughter years ago, and the cast member who was selling it to us asked if we would like to put her name on there. And we said, yeah, that'd be great. And so I wrote it on a piece of paper, and she did the characters on the umbrella. Well, we had an umbrella, used it a ton, and just kind of got nasty looking. So we said, you know what, let's go get a new one. And she wanted the same one. So got her the same one. And I said to the cast member, hey, can we get the name on this? And they offered it on the last one. And the cast member kind of looked at me and said, yeah, sure. And so I wrote the name down and wrote the characters down. And I brought it home and I said, you know what? Let me just check. Let me see how close these are. I opened them up, totally different. I thought either maybe one is Cantonese and one is I don't know, Mandarin, or one says my daughter's name, the other one says, look at this ding dong that's with me. Can you believe he's my dad? Like something derogatory. I know they wouldn't do that, but I did look. I was like, wow, it's definitely different. So
yeah, it's like they could have written anything there. You're like, he's not going to go home and check. He doesn't know.
It's like the people with the tattoos. Yeah. I always wonder what they say. Like, do they say what they think they say? That would be a fun YouTube series.
Oh yeah.
To walk around with somebody who can read those Japanese kanji characters and say, walk up to the person, excuse me, can you tell me what your tattoo on your arm says? And, oh yeah, ray of sunshine. Then you look to the guy and he goes, no, that says yakety yak, don't talk back.
There's a great song by I don't know if you know the comic. He's a musician, he's one of the comics that sing songs. Stephen Lynch, do you know who he is?
Yeah, I have heard of him.
So his stuff is very, very much not safe for the Ear to There podcast. I cannot tell you the name of the song. I can't sing a line of the song. But if you're an adult and you're not easily offended, because his stuff is very satirical and is, to be honest with you, if you take it at face value, is offensive. But if you're okay and not offended and not worried about being offended, he has a song about tattoos that he released a couple years ago. You can just Google Stephen Lynch tattoo and you'll get it. And to me, it's very, very funny. But again, it's a very adult-oriented song, so I can't really go more into detail than that. So just check it out. And to you who's listening right now, again, if you're offended by it, I am very, very sorry. I did try to put out the disclaimer that it's offensive. All right. So here we go. My next one. And since you were in Epcot, I'm going to stay in Epcot. And I'm going to go with one that has a different name, but it's the same kind of idea. And it's the Seas Pavilion. And I hope it wasn't on your list, but you said you were getting one from each park. So yeah, I think I'm probably safe.
Yeah, you're clear.
All right. So the Seas Pavilion, previously known as the Living Seas, with the attraction, the attraction was the Living Seas, right? That was all kind of the same thing. Mm-hmm. All right. So huge aquarium, right? Tremendous. was once the largest aquarium in the entire world. It was actually passed by, I think it's the Georgia Aquarium in 2004.
Disney better get on that, man. They don't want to be one-upped by Georgia.
That's a good point. They have to add on. They need an addition. They need like the aquarium edition. So
you seem to annex part of that little that lobby there.
Just drill a little hole. Let the water run out. Turn the hose on. You got a bigger aquarium.
Yeah, exactly. Just put some duct tape on the seams of the doors in the gift shop right there.
You're good. Just flood it out.
Fine.
Flood it out. Open up the shark tank. You're fine. So, all right. So the pavilion, the tank, the aquarium itself is home to more than 6,000. That number astounded me when I looked it up. 6,000 different sea creatures. And when I say sea creatures, I don't mean like, Tessie. I mean like actual like sea life. So it's also accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. So it's like held to the highest standards of animal care and presentation. See, I did do a little bit of research for this one. But because it's educational, I wanted to make sure it was educational. See how my mind works there? It kind of goes hand in hand. All right. So it was the home of the Living Seas attraction, like I said. Now it has the Seas with Nemo and Friends and Turtle Talk with Crush. They're not exactly educational, but you see, what's really cool is when you're in the queue for Turtle Talk with Crush, that's really educational. When you're in a little holding area before you go into the theater, there's all kinds of jellyfish and different kind of sharks and animals in that little queue area that if you didn't ever bother to see the attraction, you would never even know they were there. And each little like tank or holding area has a whole explanation as to the animal's diet, their habitat, where they're from. It's pretty cool. And you can really kind of get up close and personal. I've never seen a jellyfish like that, up that close. They're pretty amazing to see, like in person. It's really, really cool. So that's really neat. So you should really take your time, kind of walk around, especially when you get off of because the way you're supposed to do it is you ride the Nemo and Friends attraction, get off, and then kind of explore the whole Seas Pavilion. But you can go in through the door, back door basically, and just go experience the whole pavilion. Make sure you walk around. There's the first floor, there's the second floor. There's these little hallways that you go down these little narrow hallways. It's just more and more aquarium that you would never even see if you just did the attraction in Turtle Talk with Crush. So, I mean, you see lots of cool, like really cool animals. You see manatees, you see sharks, you see dolphins, seahorses. I had never seen a seahorse in person until I had been to the Seas Pavilion. They're really cool. They're really cool. Wait, by the way, so have you heard the thing that the male seahorse gives birth? You know that thing, right?
What?
So this is true. Yeah, this is the truth. This is true. That I know. Wait, so this is going to segue perfectly into a stand-up comedy joke, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of the comedian Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah.
I love Jim Gaffigan. I think he's hilarious. I've seen him in person a couple of times. So he has this is true that male seahorses give birth. So it's an evolutionary thing, apparently. I don't know. But his joke goes like this. He says, "Did you know that the male seahorses give birth?" Then he goes, "Why didn't they just call that one the female seahorse?" I love that. And then he goes, "Was it some stubborn scientist?" He's like, "Here is the male seahorse." And they're like, "Sir, that one's giving birth." And he's like, "Why, yes, the male seahorse gives birth." But it is true that the male seahorse does, in fact, give birth. I don't know why they didn't name that one the female seahorse. They didn't. That's kind of what happens. But seahorses in person are very, very cool. They have those there. They have, the clownfish like Nemo and Marlin that you can see. I forget the name of the fish that Dory is, but they have those as well. So, yeah, it's a very, very cool, and another really cool tip, if you were going there, is when it rains, when it's hot, thunderstorms are rolling through, you can really spend a lot of time in there. So kind of look at the sky and judge accordingly when you want to kind of duck into the aquarium and check it all out. But I love that. And I think you can learn a ton by walking around in there.
And it's kind of meditative to sit there and just watch them do their thing because, I mean, just same thing. The reason why I think people have fish tanks in their houses, just because I think it's just they're beautiful creatures, and watching them swim around is very relaxing. I think there's probably some good planning in terms of being able to say, you know what, maybe if you find a way to put that on your agenda at a point in time of the day when maybe your kids are maybe a little wound up. That could be like right after lunch or right after snack time if they had like a Mickey bar or something like that and super sugar high, just to kind of sit there and help them to relax a little bit. Just sit there and watch. It's amazing. That's kind of what we talked about with Animal Kingdom. It's just nice because you can just meander around inside there and just take your time watching wherever you want to watch, and no one's going to bother you. And it's nice and cool in there too.
Oh, yeah.
that is a plus.
And, all those things. And of course, they dump you in a little gift shop, but they have some cool kind of Finding Nemo and Finding Dory gifts you can buy in there too. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, it is very nice when it's hot. You go in there and just kind of find a ledge to sit on and just watch the sharks swim by. It's pretty awesome. So, all right, man, you're up for your next one.
Okay, so my next choice is from Disney's Hollywood Studios, and if you do a rundown of the attractions and shows right now that are currently open at Disney's Hollywood Studios, you might not think that there'd be a lot there to choose from for this discussion. But I'm going to go kind of off the wall here, and I think people probably have heard me here or other podcasts I've crashed on before know that I'm a big fan of Citizens of Hollywood. And I'm going to tell you why I think that's a great educational experience. I think this is a good one for definitely for tweens and teens. I don't even know if we use that word tweens anymore. If we don't, I'm sorry. I don't know. But here's why. I think if you have a child who is interested in theater or performing arts, or even in comedy, I think this is a great experience for them because these performers are top notch, in my opinion. Like it never fails. Like I will go to watch one of their sets and I will laugh out loud. And some of the bits I've seen before, so I kind of know where they're going with it, but still they can weave the story in a way that's just a little bit different every time because it's not scripted. So watching improv comedy and kind of, obviously being entertained by it and laughing is good. It's great for the experience. If you think about your daily life, you may not have a lot of opportunities to laugh out loud in your daily routine. So giving your kids a chance to do that, I think is just, it's a memorable experience in and of itself. But if you do have a child who is interested in theater and performing arts, what I like about them is I think they do a great job of getting the audience involved and working the crowd, so to speak. And I don't know if that's even a phrase that true hardcore theater people use, but it's neat to kind of look at it from a standpoint of trying to unpack how they do what they do. And to me, it blows me away in terms of how they're able to stay on their feet and be very quick-witted with the stuff that they put out. So I think that's a cool one to do if you're trying to encourage someone to pursue theater as a passion in terms of just an activity they like to do at school or after school. Maybe it's something they want to do professionally. But if that's the case, this is a great spot to do it because, especially like with the improv comedy angle, if you think about it, there's no place that I can think of in the country where if you have a kid who's interested in that, you can take him to watch an improv comedy show when it's something before 9 p.m. at night and it's, a place where there might be a cover charge and there's booze everywhere and people are loaded. You don't want to take them to the improv, wherever your local improv is, or Uncle Chuckle's Laugh Emporium, whatever the name of your place is in your town, because it's just not family friendly. But here it is. They keep the show clean, obviously, because it's on property. in one of the theme parks. So you don't have to worry about your kids being exposed to any rude or lewd jokes or topics, what they might see in a comedy club in a nighttime show. So that I think is it's a neat experience to give your kids something different that they probably don't get to see every day.
Uncle Chuckles. It's where I had my first underage beer back in the day.
What's the name of that bar you told me about at Old Key West?
The Gurgling Suitcase.
The Gurgling Suitcase. Yeah, the Gurgling Suitcase, Uncle Chuckles. Like that's those are like that would be a shirt I'd want to have if that was a real place.
Well, yeah, no, I really like I like that pick. What's funny is I never really thought about that. Like if your kids wanted to be into that, they wanted to get into improv, wanted to even learn about it, how would you teach them about it at all? Because you're right, there's not a place you can go that I'd ever heard of where they can kind of witness it firsthand. So yeah, great. That's a really cool pick. And I'll tell you what, I love them too. Whenever I see one of the vehicles kind of driving down, Sunset Boulevard, we stop and we wait to see what they're going to do because they're phenomenal. The shows are always different. They're always funny. They always there's a crowd in within just a couple of seconds. There's because people wait for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a really cool pick. I love that one. And they're so talented, man. Like how they can just, like you said, unscripted. It's like make these full, when you go on YouTube and look them up, you're just blown away by how quick they are and how fast. And it's an amazing talent to be able to do that. So great.
Yeah. And they deliver. They have good delivery, and they hold the crowd too. Which there are some, not just Disney. I mean, you can any theme park or any wherever, where there might be somebody doing some kind of live entertainment. It takes a lot to hold somebody's attention who just kind of happens upon you. Think about wherever your local downtown mall or outdoor market is. If you got someone sitting there playing guitar or something, you might stand there and watch for 30 seconds, but then you move on. But if you watch the crowds at Citizens of Hollywood, people just kind of happen to be stopping by on their way to whatever ride, and they see them and they'll stop and they'll watch the whole set in huge crowds. So that to me, that's a telltale sign of really being able to perform in a way that grabs people. They have fun with it. They enjoy it. And hopefully it's something that I wish Disney would do a better job of putting their schedule out. I kind of figured out the schedule and when they come out and where they go, loosely figured out. It kind of changes pretty regularly, it seems like, in terms of what they do and how they do it. But I wish they would put that on the Times Guide so people could actually see that and go, ooh, I know that troupe. Let me go see if I can fit that in the schedule.
Yeah, because you're right. That might be something that you would kind of make a plan or at least put it on your, calendar to go see during the week, because it is something that, like you said, you don't get anywhere else. It's a really cool pick, man.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah. So, all right. So I don't have one. Excuse me. I don't have one at Hollywood Studios. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed and hope I don't steal one of yours. I'm going over to Magic Kingdom, to one of the. Now I'm trying to remember. Do they have 7 lands? It's not 7 lands anymore, right? It's 6. Uh-oh. Am I taking one?
No, I don't think so.
Because I know it was 7.
I was thinking about your question. Like I'm trying to do some.
Because they had 7 lands when Mickey's Toontown was a land, but they took that away and added New Fantasyland. So if you count that as a land, then it's still 7. But if it's a part of Fantasyland overall, then it's only 6. It doesn't matter. Don't devote too much time to it. I was kind of thinking that out loud. All right. So one of the lands is actually a little tiny, time capsule in itself. And it is like stepping into a DeLorean and coming out inside of colonial America, and that's Liberty Square. So I just think the entirety, the whole land of Liberty Square is an educational opportunity, with the exception of Haunted Mansion, maybe, because that's kind of pure entertainment, and it's there because the building kind of fits the land. I don't think it has a whole lot to do with colonial America. but the rest of it does. I mean, you look, the area is pretty much set up exactly how a colonial town would have been set up. Of course, it's paved, which probably wouldn't be the case for most colonial towns back then. But, you know, they're not going to just make it dirt. You have to walk through like dirt roads of Liberty Square. So I guess that wouldn't have worked out. But anyway, so like little kind of fun facts about Liberty Square that I really like. I like the hinges that are holding up all the shutters in the land are all made of leather because they couldn't have been made of metal because the metals was all being, scrapped and melted down for the war efforts. I think that's really cool. I like that there's no restrooms in Liberty Square. I know people argue with that and say there is one in Columbia Harbor House and there's also one in Liberty Tree Tavern, but those are actually located in other lands. I think the one correct me if I'm wrong, the one in Columbia Harbor House is actually on the Fantasyland side.
I've heard that one, yeah.
Yeah, and then the one in Liberty Tree is, I'm trying to think, it's on, it's in the hub, or it's located in the hub, or something like that, or Adventureland. Maybe Adventureland. I forget where it's actually located.
Wait, is it? Because it's like on top of the like the waiting area, but maybe it is. I don't know. That's a great question.
I might be wrong about the location of it, but I know technically it's not supposed to be located in Liberty Square. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how exactly that kind of works out. But one of my favorite things is the brown pathway in Liberty Square. And why I love that is because Disney didn't have to put that in there, right? The Imagineers did not need to include that, but they did. And for, the listener who doesn't know it's a little narrow kind of brown trail that goes throughout Liberty Square. And it's if you look at it, it's kind of out of place because it really shouldn't be there. And what that was supposed to represent was in colonial America, there was no plumbing, indoor plumbing, or any plumbing, I guess. So the sidewalks and the streets kind of went down into almost like a V shape, and people in the houses would just throw their indoor waste into
chamber pots.
Yes, into the middle of the street, and it would run down this, into that kind of that little valley there. So that's what the brown trail throughout Liberty Square is supposed to represent. It's that sewage or that waste that used to be emptied out of the houses. So I think that's kind of cool. So there's a lot that's not gross. That can be seen.
I still don't like to walk in that. Like, just even though I know it's concrete, I feel like I need to pull my pant legs up.
Yeah, right. Like, just gotta keep jumping over it with me and the strollers. I don't care. I just go right through it. Whatever. And then there's the Liberty Tree itself, right? It's like 100. I forget what the age is. It's like 130 years old. This oak tree that they found somewhere else on property when they were building Magic Kingdom, and they brought that into. They took the time to dig the darn thing up and bring it over to Liberty Square and plant it in there. And they added the 13 lanterns that represent the 13 original colonies on the Liberty Tree, which is really cool. And there's actually a replica of the Liberty Bell in Liberty Square. I mean, how much cooler can you get than having all that history in one? I think it's the smallest land in all of Magic Kingdom. I mean, come on, that's pretty cool.
And what about, remember, you and I exchanged text messages over this when I first saw it, is the spelling of Pennsylvania on the Liberty Bell is not the way it's spelled. Pennsylvania is spelled today. It's spelled differently. And you said that's how it used to be spelled. There was an acceptable spelling.
Yeah, I forget what that was. I remember it was because it was, shoot, I forget the exact, I'm going to have to look that up again.
I just Googled it right now.
Okay, there you go.
So this is according to NSF, which is, what is NSF.gov? Not safe for government.
I don't know.
So it says Pennsylvania's display bell was made out of sugar. Interesting. I didn't know that. On the Liberty Bell, Pennsylvania is misspelled. PENSYL 7 VANIA. I'm just kidding. There's no 7 in there. It's just one N instead of 2.
Right.
Which is supposed to be named after William Penn, right?
Right, who has 2 N's in his name.
Yeah.
It's Penn's Woods, I believe, is what. I don't know. Penn and then Sylvania means woods, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a scholar. This is why.
I went to public school, so I get a pass on this.
And I'm
National Science Foundation is what that is.
Okay, and I'm only from Pennsylvania, and
I know, man. You should be all over.
And
this.
I grew up in Philadelphia, and I.
Whoa, yeah, you totally should be down with this, man.
Dude, you know what? The Liberty Bell, seriously, in my entire life was a tourist trap. I think I saw it for the first time when I was like 14. Like, we don't, like if you have some kind of huge, this big time history thing in your town, you don't go see it. That's where the tourists go.
You wouldn't believe how many people I've talked to down here who are, adults who said, yeah, we grew up here, but I've never been to Disney.
That blows me
really?
away.
Yeah, I know. I don't get it. Like, I know you have to have made some friend along the way who either they or their parents or somebody worked there, and maybe was able to get you in on a friends and family discount or something.
Free ticket. Somebody like you run into free tickets. You have to.
You know how many people hit me up for free tickets, man? You know how many? I know you probably had a lot when you were in the college program. So many people hit me up for free tickets. It's funny. They think I just I own like a corporate box down there. Like I can they can come in and hang out. Like I've got a corporate box. They can get free beer. Like, it doesn't work that way. You gotta pay the piper, man.
I get that now. I get people asking me like, "Hey, can you get me into the park?" I'm like, "I don't work there. I don't even live there. I don't know what you're talking about."
It's funny. Can you think of 3 places where it requires some sort of membership or tickets or passes where it's cool for you to just give your ticket or your pass to someone else? Like not even the library anymore.
No.
Like the library has a picture.
The library. By the way, sorry, this is another tangent, but I dropped my wife and my kids off at the library, the local library the other day, and they spend literally 2 to 3 hours there. They read. There's like a puppet show theater they have. There's activities. There's iPads now. There's all kinds of stuff. So I was like, all right, I drop them off. I get like 3 hours of work done. That's great. It was a day off from school. I drop them off. 10 minutes later, I get a text from my wife. I can't take books out because they need my ID. So I wrote back, what are you talking? It's the library. What do they need your ID for? She writes back, they need a picture ID to match. It doesn't make any sense. Little kids could take out books. Why? Anyway, I got to go.
When I got my library card, I forgot that they took my picture. And, so a couple of years went by, whatever. And just the day I was down with my kids checking out some books, and I don't know why, but I just looked over at the monitor where the computer monitor where they were doing all their stuff. And when they scanned my card, my picture came up, and I totally forgot that when they asked for my picture, I stood there and gave them like 2 thumbs up blaring, and they took it that way. And like that was showing on the monitor, and it made me laugh not because of the pose I made, but because no one has ever laughed when they scan my card. Like if I saw somebody do that, I'd be cracking up.
they feel bad for you. Like,
I know. Like, they can't believe we gave this guy a library card. This highbrow literary society that we run here.
Or when they scan it, the name comes up like that you're on a watch list, like the library watch list. So they're nervous to even scan you in. That's probably what
this guy dog ears pages on books.
He's got a book out from 1981. Keep an eye on him.
His last late fee he paid with nickels.
What, you have to bring 3 nickels in? Seriously, how much? I don't even know how much late fees cost anymore. All right, we're completely off the rails. You got to go. You got to go up with your next one. What do you got?
And I was sweating bullets in your last one. I'm not going to lie. My next one is in the Magic Kingdom, but you didn't even hit it, which I was so shocked because mine is the Hall of Presidents.
Yeah, I left that out on purpose. I left
really?
It. I did because I was like, I said to myself this afternoon when I was coming up with my list, he may have Hall of Presidents, so I'm going to leave it off. Yeah.
Oh well. Oh, cool. I appreciate that. That was nice of you. You know me too well. But I chose that, and when you said you didn't, I thought, oh, he's trying to dodge the bullet because of politics and all that stuff, so. But here's the thing. I think you have to forget politics for a second, no matter where you stand, whether you're a right winger, a left winger. If you don't have any political efficacy at all, look at that nickel word right there,
That's
efficacy.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. I don't know what the hell it means, but it sounded good.
For the listener, we're recording this late at night too. That was impressive.
Yeah. So, but I think you got to put that aside for a second and enjoy the show, because what happens in the show, I think, look, I'm not going to be saying this to be funny. I'm 100% sincere. I come out of that show every time feeling like I want to hug and kiss a bald eagle. Like, it makes me feel proud to be an American. It's
if they would let you. I mean, I think that's going to be an issue.
They're not really endangered anymore, are they?
No, they're not endangered anymore. No,
it's fair game. And they're all over down here, man.
I know.
I literally, look, quick tangent. I was jamming down the turnpike a month ago or so, and not a lot of traffic. I'm just kind of doing my thing, driving the speed limit, not going crazy. And a bald eagle swooped around and kind of like went in front of my car. And I wasn't near hitting it, but it just like, it was in such plain sight for me as it was going over the highway. And I felt like pulling the car over and just saluting. Like, it was such a beautiful feeling.
Yeah, they're awesome, man. It's amazing to see them like out there. My buddy has a place down in right off the Gulf of Mexico, and there's right by where he lives is like the sanctuary where it's like a bald eagle sanctuary. And I didn't know it was there. The very nice guy he is didn't tell me. So I went out for a run in the morning, and I'm running through this bald eagle sanctuary, not even knowing. These things are all over the place. I had no idea. And they're swooping down, and it freaked me out. I turned around and ran back, and I mentioned it to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't tell you about that." I'm like, "No," and it's scary because they're big. They are big animals when you're by yourself out there. Anyway, sorry. So back to our president. Sorry.
No, it's good tangent, but I think it's. Maybe the best way to say is there's a lot of power to the show, and I think it's something that can be very impactful to a child to see. Even my son, he loves this show. It's not very long. I don't know, it was like 18 minutes or something like that, or 20 minutes. It's not that long. And by the way, I know some people who say this is like one of the prime napping spots.
I was going to say it too. Drives me up a wall.
Please don't nap there.
No, it drives me nuts. It's first of all, it's disrespectful.
Yeah.
Second of all, to say that in any Disney attraction bothers me, except for Ellen's Energy Adventure, nap away. But everywhere else, or I saw they're bringing Stitch back for a little limited engagement. If you want to nap, I guess you can't really nap in Stitch. You get, corn dog burped in your face every couple seconds. But yeah, I agree, man. I think that's a ridiculous thing when people say they nap in there.
Yeah, but I don't want to give it away if you haven't seen the show yet. But it's definitely something that I think really does help to kind of paint the picture of where we've come in terms of the beginning of the country and even some people say where we are today is so far from where we've come from. Yeah, okay, I get you, but I definitely think it's definitely worth a visit, and I would argue to say that this is not a one and done type of experience. I don't know if I could tell you what the frequency is that I go there. I mean, it's shut down right now, but I'd probably say once every few months I go and see the show. And there's a neat little atrium that when you're waiting for the show to start, they rotate some of the exhibits that they have there sometimes. So there's some new things. It's not as vast as what you get at like the Smithsonian in DC, but there's some neat things that are on display there to kind of help to set you up for the story that's being told there. So I think that's a great one for the kids. And, at Magic Kingdom, there's a lot of educational opportunities, and it's not just a place for, to go have fun and do fast rides or have these cool, nostalgic story kind of rich story attractions like the Haunted Mansion. So that should definitely be something on the list if you're looking for an educational experience for your kids.
Great pick. I really can't add a whole lot because I agree completely. I agree, politics aside, and it's the last thing I ever want to do on this podcast is talk politics because, to be honest with you, I'm a little politicked out at this point. But listen, if you're an American, it's a great show to sit and watch. And even if you're not, it's very, very interesting. Just the technology of it by itself is pretty interesting to sit. Like when one of the presidents is talking, look around at the other ones who were fidgeting like in their seats, and so you'll see one lean over.
Abe Lincoln's texting.
Checking the NASDAQ while he's sitting there. But no, you're right. They have all these little fidgeting things and they're like whispering to each other, and it's cool. And I really like that. There's one little thing that you didn't mention. I always think is a cool fact about all the presidents is that they were all dressed in actual like clothing that was available at the time that they were around, which blows me away. Like George Washington is dressed in clothing and it was built and it was sewn like it would have been made in his time, only using materials and styles that would have been used in his time. I think that's cool. I think stuff like that is what puts Disney over the top for me.
I've never heard that. That's interesting. And you know what kind of bums me out about that is, I've seen that attraction a million times and I didn't know it, but now when I go see it, I'll probably like it just that much more. And it's one of those little details that, gosh, somebody or some group of people sat around and really thought it out to say this would be a nice way to really help to sell this idea. But they don't advertise it. So you just kind of, you just soak it in, and I guess kind of not thinking about all those details, you just automatically feel this sense of the story being told being very rich and true. But that's so cool. I didn't realize that.
I like stuff like that. That's kind of cool. Anyway, so for my next trick, I am going to go with, I'm kind of going to piggyback on what you just did. And I'm going to go over to Epcot, staying with the American theme, and I'm going to the American Adventure Pavilion, and specifically the show that is in the pavilion. I think, listen, talking about something that's educational, that really is. I mean, from the moment you get to that pavilion, that whole thing is educational. But before you even walk into the American Adventure show, you learn something. I mean, that the building, right? It's a 5-story building that houses that show, but it's meant to look like a 3-story building because they didn't have 5-story buildings in colonial America, right? So they use forced perspective, or I guess kind of like a reverse kind of forced perspective, to make it seem like it's only 3 stories. So they have giant doorways and giant windows and stuff on the first floor, and it gets progressively smaller as it goes up. I mean, yeah, that's right. Smaller, but it's it's supposed to look like, it looks like 3 floors, but it's actually 5. So I thought that was cool. And the actual show is incredible. It's hosted by audio and animatronic versions of Ben Franklin and Mark Twain, who I think, by the way, lived like 100 years apart from each other. So they kind of actually couldn't host this together if it was made when they were around, but it's still pretty cool. It showcases like really interesting parts of American history, like the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, I forget, the American industrialization, I guess it's called. It has a better name. I don't know what the actual name of that time was, and the Great Depression. And dude, I have to ask you, seriously, is there a better song in any attraction? Well, there probably is, but than Golden Dream. I love that song. And if you don't know which one I'm talking about, right? The Golden Dream song.
I have a funny story about it.
I'm not going to sing it, but I'll sing a little bit. No, I won't. But it's the America, you can keep dreaming now. That one. That's it.
I love it. I'll sing it. No, I won't. I'll sing it. No one. America.
I was like fighting with myself. Like, do you want to do it? Yeah, I'll do it.
You had like the angel and the devil on one, like
it was like Kronk, Kronk from Emperor's New Groove.
Let me tell you, did I tell you this story already about when I was like 8 or 9, seeing this show and what happened during Golden Dream?
I don't think so.
But
no, just remember, this is being recorded and it will be on the podcast. So if you're telling me, you're telling everyone. So just remember that.
I know I told this story to somebody recently, so I apologize if I told it on here. So you sound like I didn't. So that is like the place, and at that point in time of the show is when I came to grips with the reality that I'm immortal, like I'm going to die, because I was seeing these people telling these stories and thinking, hey, these people are dead. They're not around anymore. Like, we're telling stories about them. Oh my gosh, I'm going to die one day.
Oh man.
And and as Golden Dream is going, my brain processed that, and I started to cry. And so my parents are looking at me like, wow, he's really moved by this. Like, he's really like the sense of patriotism in this young lad is strong right now. And meanwhile, I'm going, oh my God, I want to die. I want to die. So now I when I hear this song, I get emotional when I see this song, because I know, they've updated and they put some new clips in there recently, but still, I mean, it's a big piece of music, man. It gets you.
Oh, they had the "I Have a Dream" speech in there, and you hear the eagle has landed, and oh my God, I'm getting chills just thinking about it right now. It's such a great show, and technologically, by the way, an amazing show. Like that, they have these huge sets with these animatronic characters that are literally under the audience, and it kind of cycles. There's this crazy machine that cycles them through up onto the stage. It's insane, but it's a great show. You learn a lot, and I think any kids, my kids have seen it. It kept their attention. I think any kid would sit through it. So yeah, I love that one. I don't want to disparage your last pick by any means, but if I was going to pick between the two, I'm going, between Hall of Presidents and the American Adventure. I'm going American Adventure like every day. I just think I leave. You talk about wanting to salute. I leave that show ready to get an American flag tattoo on my bicep. Like, I'm ready. I am ready to enlist in the Marines. I am ready to go. It really gives you that sense of pride about being an American, and it's really cool. So I think, as far as education goes for kids, it's a great show. It really, really is.
Dude, you want to really like amp up the experience? See that show on July 4th.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Dude, you want to talk about like,
oh man,
yeah, just like you're already in the mode of Independence Day and just America or America, depending on how you pronounce it. And you see that show, dude, man, it's really, really powerful to see that on July 4th.
I think you're up. This is your fifth one.
Yeah, my last one on my list.
See, this stinks for me because now I'm like, you didn't steal any of mine, so now I have to narrow it down for my last one. So
yeah, well, that's good, man, and thanks for sparing me on the Hall of Presidents.
No, dude, it was funny that I don't know why I thought you would have it, because we've never had that conversation before, but I had an idea. So yeah, you're welcome.
Nice. So my last one, I've hit all 4 theme parks. Now I want to choose something at Disney Springs, and this is one that I definitely would guess that a lot of people don't know about. And but you've walked past this place a million times probably. It's the Portobello restaurant. It used to be called Portobello Yacht Club. Now it's just Portobello. Right next to Paddlefish and across the way from T-Rex, which I heard somebody in passing like that'd be a good book of like things you've overheard at Disney. I was walking down there one day, and this couple was walking next to me, and the woman coming up on T-Rex. The woman said, "What restaurant is that?" The guy kind of like leans and looks at the sign. He goes, "Oh, it's called Trex." It's like there's these like 30 feet dinosaurs in front of the place, and I guess you could kind of not see the hyphen, but that I was laughing.
Maybe they were one of those people that don't believe that dinosaurs ever existed.
Ooh, that was like a very, very outward protest.
Yeah,
man.
like
that's how you become famous, man. You just go off the rails with some crazy theories.
Start doing some. I'm going to start doing that on the podcast. Just start saying like, "Oh no, Walt Disney." I don't know. I was going to think of something. Then I'm like, all the rumors I know about Walt Disney are not safe to talk about on this show. So I'm not going to those up. Anyway, sorry. Before I get myself into trouble, go ahead with yours.
Yeah, no worries, man. So at Portobello, they have cooking classes that they do there at the restaurant. And I don't know what the frequency is, but I'll tell you, if you want to find out when they're doing the next ones and what the topics are, the best way is probably to follow their Facebook page, which I think is just, if you go like facebook.com/Portobello Restaurant, if I remember, that's the one. And the last one they just did, but they did one a few days ago. They usually do them on the weekends. It was a ravioli class. So they brought in like a James Beard award-winning chef to teach the class and how to make ravioli. And I remember not that long ago, one of the classes was a kids-only class where they just you drop your kid off, had to be over a certain age, and they just went over some basic techniques of how to cook in the kitchen safely. So it's unfortunately not a regular thing, and so it's kind of hard to say, it's always the second Saturday of the month. Maybe it is. I haven't been able to figure out what the schedule is in terms of how regular it is. So definitely check out the Facebook page to see what the latest one is or what the next one is. But it's a neat thing to do to kind of change the pace because, cooking classes, you don't see a ton of them around. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if they're allowed to do those in schools anymore because of we're worried about, playing tag is too aggressive now.
Yeah, right. I know.
So cooking, using knives and fire and all that kind of stuff, that might be kind of off limits now. So you don't find a whole lot of places where you can get cooking classes, and I enjoy cooking classes. I think they're a lot of fun to learn new things. You can watch a TV show on Food Network or something and see something that's interesting. It's neat. It's entertaining. You can learn something, that's for sure. But there's an extra element of actually being there and being, hands-on and participating in the process that I think changes the experience that you're getting when you're learning something. And let me say this about kids. I'm no expert. I'm not even pretend like I am this super dad. But what I do know is that with respect to food, if you give your children the opportunity to participate in the act of preparing food, it gives them a different appreciation for it. It no longer becomes this thing where, when dinner is served on the table, they just kind of turn their nose up and go, I don't want that. I want a hot dog instead. Because they were a part of the process. They have a vested interest in it now. And it's a nice way to introduce them to things that otherwise they would turn their nose up to. And when you give them a chance to, be right by your side and work on that kind of stuff, it's a great bonding experience. And I think it's something that a lot of people who will tell you that if they did that with their parents when they were kids or their grandparents, it's one of the cherished memories that they have growing up. And also now when you look at, an environment like this where you're now giving, your kids the chance to work one-on-one, hands-on with some of the best chefs in the business, it's really an amazing experience for them to be able to kind of really get a fire in their belly about learning more and wanting to be a part of the process to prepare meals. And, especially with all the talk lately, with all the documentaries that have been out there about the food that we eat and things like that, knowing that, eating out isn't something that you should be doing all the time. It's more of a kind of celebratory or kind of once in a while thing. And you should be eating more in the house to really monitor what you're feeding your kids. And that's a great way to kind of get in that process and help them get indoctrinated to it. So I highly recommend checking that out. And I think that's a neat thing to do. I'd love to see it more at Disney. I know they used to do it at the Contemporary. They did it for a short while, and I don't know if they're still doing it. I haven't heard about them doing it. Did you hear about that when they were doing that a couple years ago?
I actually know, and I didn't know anything about the Portofino, right? I'm sorry,
Portobello.
I'm thinking
Portofino is that other park down the street.
Know. You know what? I booked. It's funny. I book everything. I also will book that other park, and I was booking someone's trip today, and they were staying at Portofino Bay at the other resort, and I had that on my mind. But no, I didn't even know they did that over there. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was even a thing.
That used to be a thing with, when the Disney Institute was kind of residing. Was that over at the where Saratoga Springs is now? Where they kind of had that campus there, and you could go over and take cooking classes, and it was a regular thing. And that kind of Disney Institute morphed into something totally different. And then so there wasn't anything for a long time. They brought it back briefly, and again, I don't know if they're doing it anymore because I haven't heard of them doing it. They did something at the Contemporary in like the banquet or the convention area in one of those big kitchens in there, right, where you could go in there and take some classes, and they show you like how they make stuff. But I haven't heard of them doing that anymore. But this one's been going on for a little bit now. The one at Portobello, and I think that's a cool thing. And if you're a fan of good food and learning how to improve your skills, that's something you should maybe think about for your next trip.
Yeah, man, that's really cool. I really enjoy cooking. I like it a lot. I'm not by any means a pro. I've never taken any classes. I've never done anything like that. I can follow a recipe. That's pretty much as far as I go. But our oldest, Alexa, she really, really likes it, and she wants to help when I cook. I'm the cook in my house. Amy listens to the podcast sometimes, so I don't want to talk about her cooking skills. But
don't risk it, man. Yeah, don't roll those dice.
She once, when she was living in Celebration, almost burned down her apartment building because she meant to turn on the timer in a microwave, but she turned the microwave on with nothing inside of it, and she ended up melting that microwave-safe plate that's inside the microwave.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She put it on for like, I don't know, the timer was supposed to be for like a couple of hours. And she turned the microwave on for that long. And,
I didn't know this could do that.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, she found out all kinds of things. So, so my wife is a phenomenal wife, phenomenal mom. I could never ask for anything more. In the kitchen, she worries me a bit. So I'm usually the cook in our house. But my daughter has shown such an interest in it that she asked for a cooking set, like a kid cooking set for Christmas from Santa Claus this year. And she got, Christmas morning came and Santa brought a cooking set, and we've gotten to do a little bit of cooking and stuff, and she loves it. Like, she thinks that's awesome because I do it, and so she has her own, knife, but it's not really a knife. It's kind of like, a knife for a 6-year-old, but she can cut, kind of soft things with it, and she has measuring cups and spoons and a cutting board and all that stuff. So, yeah, I can totally get on board with the whole Portobello thing. I think it's not Portofino. I think it's really, really cool. So I'm surprised I haven't heard of it, but if it's not something realistically that 4-year-olds do or that I can book in advance for my clients, I usually don't know about it. So that's really, really cool, man. That's a really, really, I honestly, that's something that I would think about doing with my daughter, because that's something that's, she's super interested in right now. So yeah, thanks. That's why people tune in, man. We bring the heat. That's true. Yeah. We bring stuff that no one else is talking about. Groundbreaking. This is, breaking news, stuff that you can't find anywhere else. Only right here on the Ear to Their podcast. That's true. That is very true. All right. So for my last one, I'm just going to go with this one. And I'll quickly mention my last couple as honorable mentions. Magic Kingdom. My last one is the Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress. This is the one, and it's an attraction, it's a show, it's whatever you want to call it. It debuted at the 1964-65 World's Fair. As kind of a bonus, this is the one attraction I think in Walt Disney World that was actually kind of worked on and touched by Walt Disney himself. Most of the stuff there's the model of Progress City on the People Mover that he had a hand in building and kind of worked on, but that's just a small section of the model. It's nobody really knows what the whole model is actually, but this is an attraction that he worked on personally. That's why it's called Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress. It actually holds the record for the most. Let me get this right. Now I'm looking at my notes. It's the longest running stage show with the most performances in American history. So honestly, that's worth the price of admission right there. That's really, really cool. If you don't know, if you haven't been on Carousel of Progress, if you haven't seen it, it follows it follows one family through, four, I guess it's four different times in American history, but realistically it's three. It's the 1900s, the 1920s, and 1940s. The fourth scene is a future scene that is set somewhere in the 21st century. At this point, I don't know where it should be set or where it is set. There's virtual reality. There's, a flat screen TV, but it's a square flat screen TV at this point. There's voice activated appliances in that scene. It's kind of out there now, but the other three scenes are very, very cool. They give you a kind of a peek back at what America was like in the 1900s, the 20s, and the 40s. You get, and like during the show, as the narrator, the father, whose name do you remember his name? I always forget the guy's name. The narrator, John, that's right. He explains to you like what's going on in their household at the time. So he'll say like, "Oh, we just got a vacuum," or "We just got indoor plumbing," or "This year the dishwasher was installed," or "electric lights." Or at one point, I think it's a Laserdisc player that he mentions, which I think is hilarious that was still there, the Laserdisc. Because I remember in college, I had a next door neighbor who had a Laserdisc, and I was like, we were like, oh my God, this is the future of the Laserdisc. It was the size of a vinyl record, or bigger than that. I don't even know. It was, an enormous CD back then. But anyway, so I think you can learn a lot. It's an entertaining show. It's really fun. The characters are fun. It's a part of Disney history, and it's a part of American history. It's really, really cool. So that's kind of why that I wanted to end my my list out with that one. I think if it's something that you're going to Magic Kingdom and you're going to skip by it because you've seen it once or twice, I think you should kind of reconsider and go watch it again because it's worth it. It's a fun show. It's got good music. It's got really funny kind of, even though it's older humor, it's still really funny. So I think that's something you should see.
I remember taking my niece to see that attraction when she was, I don't know, man, she's probably like 6 or 7, and we were done, and we asked her, how'd you like it? What'd you think? The first thing that she said was, she was telling me how she was kind of interested in how in the one scene in the 20s where they had all the wires strung from all the fixtures and all around, and it made me think that it puts a perspective on life that, how in terms of technology and where we've come, that I think helps children to see things in a more tangible way. Because, to say, one day, well, your great grandmother didn't have electricity in her house. It's either you have it or you don't. They don't realize the progression of what it took to get to where you're at today. It's not just one day there's nothing, and then the next day there's iPhone 7 Plus. I mean, we had to have the brick phone for a little bit, and so I think that kind of is a neat way to help them understand in terms of technology and history how it all kind of comes together.
It's an interesting way for me to think about it. Like, what's really funny is my sister just moved into a house, right? Her and her husband got married in November. They just bought a new house. Not new. I mean, it's new to them. But I brought my kids over when they made settlement, when they just, signed the papers for the house. And we were in their basement. And there was a phone, an old rotary phone on the wall. And my kids were blown away. They couldn't understand what it was. And I was like, that was a phone. And they're like, what do you mean? Like, they couldn't understand, like, how you didn't just pick it up and say, call Johnny Shortsleeve, and it made the call.
It's so funny you said that, because literally, I think it was yesterday, I was on hold someplace, or I dialed someplace, and the menu came up and said, if you don't have a touch tone phone, please hang on. And I was thinking, gosh, I need to update this greeting, because really, everybody has a touch tone phone now. But then there you go. You just bumped into a rotary dial phone the other day. That's funny.
What's weird is I don't know. When we took the phone off the wall and it was still connected to a wire, right? Like the old phone cord was still in there.
Did the operator come through the wall as you're yanking on the cord?
I don't. What's really funny is I don't understand. I guess the person that was living there, was actually a doctor who moved because he got transferred. I think he was a single guy, and I'll bet it was just there, and he never bothered to move it, and it probably had been there for. I mean, it had one of those huge, with if you're in trouble, called 911 stickers on the bottom of the phone. I mean, this phone was old. And, my kids, I was trying to explain to them, the wiring and the rotary, and I couldn't figure it out. Like, I was like, what? Like, they're never going to know. Like, you've seen those things on like Facebook, or, they'll never know the struggle. They'll never know the struggle of, picking up a rotary phone or an old, a wired phone and walking around your room while you're talking on it. I never had a phone in my room when I was a kid. I didn't have my own phone. Like, it's, now I see like 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds with iPhones. Like, it blows me away. But they just,
when it was, I remember it was a big deal when someone said, I got a second phone line installed in my house.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. What I had was my parents wouldn't spring for the second phone line. So what we signed up for was the specialty ringtone. It was like the early 90s. So my friends would call, it would do, like, instead of the straight, like, brrring, it would go like, brr, brr, brr. Like, it would like just make this crazy
like Morse
ring.
code.
Yeah. So then they would know that was one, like, I had entered like 3 of my friends' phone numbers into the system. So when one of those numbers would call, the phone would ring that way and it would know it was for me, and they wouldn't pick it up. That was my big, like, that was my second phone line. But I mean, they'll never know. Like, I'm sorry, we got to end this episode, and I'm sorry, but when you were talking on the phone and somebody else, you always had that fear that somebody would pick up on another phone and listen to what you were talking about. Like, they don't have that anymore. That's not going to happen again.
I had a friend in high school whose parents did that, and we would chat on the phone, and all of a sudden you hear it pick up, and my friend went, "Mom, put the phone down," and then you hear click. Totally snooping.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think I'm sure my parents did that to keep an eye on me. And if I could now, I would do it to my kids. If my kids were teenagers now, and I could get on their cell phones, listen, I have no shame in saying I would do it. I'm going to be the worst dad to teenage daughters ever. I'm going to be such a spy. It's not even going to be funny. But I mean, what are you going to do? All right. So you had your 5. Do you have any honorable mentions at all to add, or should I just add mine?
Yeah, go ahead and add yours. I mean, I could probably go on for hours.
I know. And we definitely would. So that's why I'm trying to wrap it up. All right. So really quickly, My honorable mentions. Maharaja's Jungle Trek over at Animal Kingdom. Love that one. Tigers, water buffalo, Komodo, dragons. You get the flying fox, which is the giant bats. It's a really cool one. You can see all those animals up close and personal.
Let me give you a tip on that one, man. And the birdhouse, make sure you're wearing a hat.
Yeah, that's you gotta watch out for those guys.
Yeah, man, they'll buzz you, and if they don't buzz you, they'll put a deposit on you.
It's true.
like spray yourself down with Pam instead of sunblock, so you can just easily wipe it off.
Slides right off when they go. My other ones were Living with the Land. Again, I think that's a great educational experience.
Hydroponics.
I know. I was going to mention that. The hydroponics was going to come up. If no one knows what Johnny is talking about right now, you have to go back and listen to. Gosh, I forget what episode that was when we talked about Living with the Land and hydroponics. I'm not even going to promise that I will remember what that one was, but we did talk about that before. And my last one that I wanted to mention was, of course, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. Kilimanjaro Safari, I think, is a great, great educational experience as far as you can see dozens of animals. And I'd argue now, actually, that it's a little bit better as far as education goes, because with the storyline kind of being eliminated, you have a lot more of the driver kind of going, giving you background on the animals and telling you about them. And it's kind of cool. You can learn a lot if you just kind of sit and listen to the driver in that attraction. So I think those three were my, I said three, right? Yeah. They were my honorable mentions. So
nicely done, man. Nicely done.
Yeah. We had a lot to go through on this one. So thank you for hanging in and listening to us. We both, I know, really appreciate it. So thanks again, man, for doing this. This was a lot of fun. We're always on for forever when we do one of these. Again, this is going to be one episode. I'm not breaking it up because people know us. They know we go off on tangents. They see your name in the title and they're like, all right, I got to carve out an hour and a half here to listen to this episode. So it's going to be one episode.
Yeah, I like the idea, and we should probably give like AP credit, like college credit. But it would be like fun, like for extra credit, to see if you can find somebody that can find that episode where we mentioned where you mentioned hydroponics and what timestamp, and like edit this out in post. Give them like a deal. Give them a deal on the service pack, man. What is it? What are you charging now? Like $2,000 now? There's inflation with 2017 prices.
It is going up a little bit with with the new presidency and all.
Yeah, I mean, the stock market's at record time, all-time highs. You gotta pay some bills.
As I said, I wasn't going to talk about politics. That was just a joke. But actually, and thank you for mentioning what I do, because I try not to plug myself too much on these episodes. But it's actually free. I don't charge anything for anything that I do.
Well, you give like the free quotes. I remember that much. Free, the quotes are free. Now, hey, I got some good memory skills here. Free quotes, but no, I'm talking about the other stuff, like the itinerary, the personalized itinerary, the dining bookings you do, the fast passes, Magical Express, booking the hotels, doing the educational walk-in tours. I thought it was $2,000. I mean, what are you charging for that piece now?
The luggage covers, courtesy of Johnny.
Oh yeah. The luggage covers. That was a great idea.
The Magic Band covers that I'll send sometimes when I find them from the crate that they're in my garage, because I still haven't unpacked it from moving.
You got to get the new sizes, man. The new Magic Band size.
That's a good point. I have to reorder those. So it's still all free. I still, believe it or not, don't charge a thing for anything. Not only Disney vacations, but any vacation. I will never, ever charge a fee for any service.
Wait, no fee?
I know.
What? Good golly, Miss Molly, I'm hot today.
I don't even know what that means. But yes, that's true. I don't.
Gets the people going.
I never have, never will charge a fee. It's It's a free service.
And how do I reach out to you if I say, you know what, man, little kidlets aren't learning a whole lot right now. Let's get them out there and do some good learning. Let's take them down to Disney. I like the cut of these guys' jib. Let me see if we can get something. But where do they go and find you?
Thank you, man. So yeah, it's eartotheirtravel.com. You can get your free quote over there. You can go to facebook.com/eartotheirphil to see what we're up to on social media. When I say we, I mean me. And I do a weekly Facebook video where you can kind of, on Thursday nights, you can kind of come over and come by, hang out, and chat in person. I guess in person, it's on the computer or on your phone, but I will be in person. So yeah, do one of those two things, and yeah, that's where you can find me.
Right on, man.
Thank you, man. And where can, I'm not going to ask you because I always say where, and then you always give me the, you usually have a cause or something that you want to kind of point people to. So do you have it?
Yeah, man, people know where to find me, man. They know how to find me. Let me tell you something real quick. Give me 30 seconds to plug something I think is interesting. There's an organization I learned about the other day. It's called Dress for Success. You ever heard of them?
I have not.
So it's a nationwide nonprofit. They have a chapter here in Orlando, and it's a really interesting setup here because what they do is their mission is to help women get reintroduced to the workforce, or if they lost their job, help them get back in there and start interviewing and help them interview with confidence. So they help them get the proper interview attire that they need in terms of clothing. They'll do seminars and events and other stuff like that to help women develop their career skills and really knock it out of the park when it comes to job interviews and things like that. It's like every nonprofit, you could donate money, but what's interesting with them is you can donate your clothes. Obviously women's clothes we're talking about here. So it's, I know of a lot of people who, when they do spring cleaning, like we're getting ready to, not you up in Philadelphia, it's not spring yet, but everywhere else in the world, not in the Northeast, it's springtime, and they might do a little spring cleaning. Instead of just taking everything and putting in that bag on the curb or in that bin in the parking lot of your grocery store, maybe carve out the professional attire, the work attire, see if you have a local chapter of Dress for Success, and give those clothes over to them because they're really doing some cool stuff, and it's great to see people who have a passion about sharing their talents and their gifts with others who need a little help in terms of getting the confidence they need to get out there and do their best and show their best, show themselves in the best light when it comes to looking for a new job. So Dress for Success, check it out. That's
awesome, man. Thank you for always bringing out something cool and something that people can kind of think about and give them something to do. I guess they're not going to take my Star Wars, Disney, and Marvel T-shirts. They're probably not the best. They're probably not the best for job interviews, but I'm sure there are people that are listening to this right now that have those clothes sitting in the back of their closet that they won't wear, they don't wear, they aren't going to use anymore. And yeah, that's a great idea, and what a cool concept it is. So thanks, man, for bringing that up. I really appreciate it. It's very, very cool.
Right on, man.
All right, man. Well, thank you again for doing this. These are always fun, and like I said, if anyone started listening to this and planned on doing something with their morning or afternoon, I apologize because we just took up a lot of your time today. But thank you for listening. Thanks again, man, for being on. And yeah, we're going to do another one of these really soon because these are fun.
Right on. Thanks, man. Thanks for what you do too. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And that is going to do it for this week's episode of the Ear to There podcast. Thank you for listening so much, and thanks again to my co-host, to my guest, Mr. Johnny Shortsleeve. It's always so much fun to have him on. We laugh, we cry. No, we don't cry, but we do a lot of laughing, and these are a lot of fun. So I really hope you enjoy listening to it as much as he and I enjoyed yammering on for hours on end. Usually each week I ask if you did enjoy the episode to please share it. And as always, please share the episode. But this week I also wanted to ask if you did enjoy it, please subscribe if you haven't already on iTunes. And then after you subscribe, or if you already have subscribed, please go in and rate the show. or leave me an honest review there. I'd really appreciate it. The reviews and the ratings help people who haven't heard the show get a chance to listen to it. So again, thank you so much in advance for that. Any rating or review is greatly, greatly appreciated. Okay, and just remember, there will be a new episode of the Ear to There podcast each and every Monday morning, as well as a new episode of the Ear to There podcast, Walt Disney World Word of the Week, each and every Wednesday morning. So until next time, again, thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. Bye-bye.